Hello and welcome to Planet Coaster. We are continuing on with the Renaissance Fair Park today. Will be finishing up the castle details that we started last episode, blocking in this giant structure and trying to get the form right. You'll notice that it's definitely interesting. This back facade here ended up having some pretty cool almost like archway elements and then some partial archway elements. And I'm using these kind of elven almost arches and then giving this solid stone pillar beneath them to give it some thickness. And then we'll copy those down and do a partial version of that, which will give us a little bit of variety with the overall composition of the pillar elements on the top here. I don't know what this serves beyond just decoration with the castle itself. This is one of the highest parts of the mountain that Bran Castle does sit on, and it will be pretty interesting to see once everything is all done. We're even going to do some rock work this episode and a whole lot of wooden trim on the interior. We're going to add all of the exterior windows. The exterior windows are going to be very plain, but that's what they are in real life. So if you take some looks at Bran Castle, you'll see the walls are very plain on the exterior, and the interior is where things get a little bit more fancy and a little bit more higher scale. So a lot of them also don't quite make a lot of sense in terms of window placement and how the interior works. And we'll have to go back into our original structure and edit kind of the current layout of things to make sure it matches as close as possible. It's not going to be 100%, but it'll be pretty good. This right half of this out exterior wall is a different height level than the other half, and the other half also has a different incline on the exterior roof there, which provides us some room to even put a little lip and an extra room almost on top of over that balcony area. And it definitely makes the whole building very dynamic. Every picture that I go through to try and find how this castle looks and try and make any sort of sense of how the interior might work is mind-boggling. Like, this castle makes no sense to me. It's like a palace with a castle with facades and then like a bunch of chimneys and fake facades almost, and every other picture the whole thing looks different because of all the weird angles and how everything just is thrown together almost haphazardly thrown together. In this balcony area, we're just going to use these stone columns to provide some under support for that. That way it looks nice and strong. This upper area above that extra roof trim, this is actually a heavily wooden kind of supported area. And the castle does have wooden trim, very similar to the rest of the park that we have going on. And it also will provide us with some much needed detail on the exterior on certain sides. Not all the sides have these wooden elements on the upper area. It feels like only maybe the living sections of the castle might have those elements to keep the structure light on the upper spots, and then the lower spots are plain and a little bit more defensive just inherently because they might be more stonework and less so much plaster work. So there are elements that I'm going to be adding to Bran Castle that aren't on any photos or anything like that, and that's just to try and almost make it a little bit more of an interesting build. Because it's so plain, I didn't like some of the sections, so I'll be adding some columns to the exterior wall just to provide something interesting to look at as you go along the structure itself. This right section here had kind of the same thing going on as the main upper keep area, so we copied that over. That was easy enough, just a quick copy and paste after slicing off the top section. And we'll go in, we'll be adding stonework along the whole base of this thing, trying to make it look like it's really embedded into the mountainside here. We're also going to be texturing, we're going to be putting some plants, or some lack thereof plants, because this is also referred to as Dracula's castle because of Vlad the Impaler lived here. we will want to add almost like dead trees, dead bushes and things that might make it look a little more creepy, which isn't inaccurate. I mean, it's kind of a creepy looking castle, but on the interior it looks, beautiful. If you guys just Google it and look at all the stucco and like plaster walls and the wooden trim and everything, this castle on the interior looks really nice. And there's going to be this juxtaposition of the exterior is going to look a little creepy and the interior is going to look a little nice. So I think that's an interesting element with Bran Castle that we're going to be trying to capture. Now, I do skip a couple times in this episode as the detailing took so long and through so many different iterations and days that it will we're just going to be touching on certain aspects as we go. So we're on the interior now. This is the main plaza, kind of courtyard of the castle, and it's definitely interesting because I don't think I got the scale 100% right for the courtyard. Some of the pictures that I've looked at, it looks a lot more narrow and condensed and more claustrophobic than what I have here. But I don't know if that's just a limitation with how we can't get exact odd angles without having to make a new building, and then that's just too time consuming for a build such as this right now. But we will get some of these upper balcony areas placed, which are really cool. They just wrap around pretty much the whole courtyard, and they allow you access into different rooms and other areas, and you can come out onto these balconies. There's a lot of actual balconies on this courtyard. There's going to be one at this height pretty much all the way around, and then there'll be an upper one kind of behind us where we can't see at this moment. That will be a little bit more of there's some like flower beds on it and more interesting things. The wooden trim here is accurate to the castle. They do have these vertical posts with no supports on them, and then these almost half posts with these diagonals supporting those. So that's fairly accurate, at least, and I'm happy that I'm able to put in some of the realistic stuff from my source images into the build itself, because people who might know Bran Castle or anything like that, or might live in Romania, might be able to just look at it and instantly recognize it without being told what it is or where it is or anything like that. So that's something to always shoot for when you're kind of recreating something. After this park, in fact, I kind of plan on doing some more recreations of other things for a little while, just because parks take a lot of time, and just doing a one-off building and uploading that to the workshop I feel like might benefit just the overall community and allow people to use that to their own builds, and might be an interesting thing to do as we move beyond the Renaissance Fair Park. Now, the Renaissance Fair obviously is not going to be done for a while, so we have plenty of time to keep adding detail here, but just to keep note that we will be changing things a little bit down the line after this park. We're going to be doing some more maybe recreations from, say, we could do movies, we could even do video game builds or things like that, who knows? But whatever you guys want to see, of course, I'm always open to suggestions on that front. The courtyard here, we end up actually getting some pathing to go here because I want people to interact with my buildings. That's kind of always my goal with these. I don't want 100% decorative things, especially for a building this size. It's not really feasible, you could say. Now, because of how this building's constructed, we don't have a lot of interior room to make everything look perfect as the guests go into the building and out into the courtyard. But you'll see how that looks here, probably a little bit more in the real-time section, because I don't think I really cover it on the speed build section, as that took a lot of iteration and trial error. More wooden trim. This wooden trim, very simple design. Generally how I go about doing these wooden trim supports is the lower third will have 2 cross beams, kind of really enforcing that lower third, and then some vertical elements off of that to bring some of the weight down onto the lower third. And I think that might be a decent representation of what you might find. This well here providing a lot of moisture in the courtyard, so I'm putting some ivy, I'm putting some greenery spaces in here Obviously not dead trees or anything. That'll actually be on the exterior a little bit later on. But I do want to have some greenery, something that's not just so brown and white and gray with the rest of the castle. Some red doors. We'll add some windows here because obviously this is an exterior wall. I don't know what would be in that wall. I even tried to find some floor plans of Bran Castle, and I couldn't really find any that looked good enough or well documented to even really tell what the interior is even like. So I don't know if anyone can provide me with that, but I would be happy to look at just what the floor plan looks like, because I'm really interested in stuff like that. Here, some more wooden elements, and you really want to try and cover up as much as possible, give as much detail as you think the build can handle and your PC can handle, as it keeps visual interest going for as long as possible. And even the views out the little balcony windows from across the courtyard look great. And we'll add a little kind of jut out on the wall here. We'll even dye it in a different color eventually after selecting a new door. That'll be ended up connected to the path in the courtyard. That'll wrap around through that door, kind of into that structure there. And that'll allow people into the upper section, and will hopefully provide an access point to the upper courtyard. The facilities we end up putting in here are a drinking stall, a hat stall, and a restroom. I want to try and fit a food stall in here somewhere, just not 100% sure where I'm going to put it. I feel like food and drink should go hand in hand, and the restroom should also be near those, just to make a guest happier to be here, you could say. There'll be benches, there'll be trash cans, all that little detailing stuff. Now, another problem with how this was made is I could have used a lot more copy and paste, yes, but also no. We're limited by the fact that this building is a lot of other structures kind of thrown together. And I could copy wooden trim around a little bit, but a lot of the structures were off the grid center, and not really a lot of the building worked by using copy and paste, because a lot of these walls weren't aligned anymore. A lot of these details aren't centrally placed. It's a very odd kind of building to try and work on with the copy and paste kind of mindset, which is fine. I'm fine going in and hand placing some of this detail. I think it looks great in the long run, but it does increase the time it might take to finish such a structure like this. Some more windows, and as we add these windows and details, just the whole thing, in my opinion, just comes a little bit more to life. It looks a lot more lived in, or believable that people could live in here potentially. And as it might be Dracula's lair, obviously it should be pretty fancy. If you guys have ever seen any movie about Dracula and stuff, you're gonna run into the whole, very aristocratic type of person and mentality. Now, we're not gonna have a whole bunch of people impaled out in the front lawn. I think that's not really feasible. I don't think the peeps would enjoy such a treatment of their guests. So we're gonna skip that step and just have a castle with some exterior, kind of slightly spooky stuff on the outside. But the interior will look really nice. So that's the plan there. Some copy and paste was able to be worked in, finally. Some roof decorations and stuff. There's still some structural problems with the castle, but overall, I would say we're about 90% accurate. There's that 10% leniency, I think, anyone would give themselves, just because of the limitations of the roof tiles and things, and I don't want to go in and spend a whole bunch of time making custom roof pieces. I did that enough in Alpha 1 and 2, so I want to focus more on getting large details done over all the little nitty-gritty stuff. So I need things I can read from a distance, and I need things to be relatively quick enough so I can produce these episodes at a good enough pace to keep you guys interested in the park, and then also keep me interested in the park. If I sit there and spend hours and hours working on one window, I'm going to get bored really quick of that. This little jut is pretty cool. It's one of the little wooden trimmed areas on the exterior wall here. This is some time afterwards because I think that's enough kind of wooden trim to show you all. Here's some more vertical pillars. That's really not in the castle proper, but it will be something that I put in there. I don't know what I did with the camera there. That was kind of a weird moment. I think I was just going around making sure everything looked good really quick. And at this point, we'll just go through, add some rocks along the base, all the way around the castle. We'll also be adding some dead shrubs, some dead trees, and trying to just make the thing look a little creepy. Not like 100% haunted house, but like, because the altitude and where these plants are growing, maybe they're dead now, or maybe they, it is generally fall time when Renaissance fairs are open, so maybe they might, just simply due to their area, lose their leaves a little earlier than everything else because they're maybe more higher in the air, things like that. But it does give a little bit of a creepy feel to the mountain itself. I was messing with the hillside a little bit, just trying to roughen it up and make it look a little bit more weighty at the bottom. Having a sheer cliff face is cool and all, but if you have no weight to it, it just doesn't look believable. And that's normal with structures. That's normal with terrain or anything that you're really going for. Here's some of the dead trees. Here's some of the dead bushes. We'll even put some vines going up and down. A touch of actual greenery. I kind of wish I could color those to like a brownish yellow so they look old and like they've been there for so long and they're slightly drying out. But hopefully we might get that option down the line. I would like a color picker tool for the trees themselves because it would allow us to get like autumn colors really easily without having them to make all like autumn variants. I think that would be something good to do. This exterior cylinder looked a little too boring for me, so I went back in and added more column sections here. This is definitely not in any reference picture that you'll see, but I just wanted something to bulk up the exterior and make it look like it could support that large tower section. Some of these weren't quite aligned, so I had to go back in and manually move some pieces just so they get a little bit more flush, and from a distance you're not going to see this giant crack going down the side. Some nice little arrow slits on the upper section. And we'll just go back in, putting ivy on the ground, on the walls a little bit, texturing some of the mountainside. Obviously, we can still use some trees, just a touch of greenery, not a whole lot. And then basically the goal is to have some greenery and then watch as the greenery dies in a section and then expands back into some greenery. And you kind of frame these dead sections within these living sections of plant life. I think that's a interesting and kind of accurate way things might look on a thing like this. Was going to do a dead tree with some custom leaves there. Didn't look right because the flat kind of shrubs didn't quite sell it, so I just used one of the default trees, just one of those smaller ones, so it doesn't look overbearing compared to the wall. You're going to have small trees up around the castle. You're not going to have giant oaks. You're not going to have giant birch trees or anything, or pines for that matter. You're going to have these wispy kind of elements just up that high. Here is the main courtyard again. We're going to add some elements in here, just some like carts, things like that might serve a cool function. Found these spooky roots and vines, which I didn't know were even in the game until now. And so we'll go back in and even add this little layer occasionally. I don't want to do it too much, but it's pretty cool to have some gnarled branches along the hillside in spots. So that's it for the speed build section. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the real time. As you can see, this was a longer section than normal. So here we go. Alright, here we are. This is the largest structure in our park, and hopefully will be the largest one, period. This is Dracula's castle, also known as Bran's castle, and we will be working and showing you guys how this thing turned out. So this is everything with the details on. And you can see here is some of those gnarled branches and gnarled kind of dead elements along the cliffside here. Just making it look really grounded, trying to make it look older and a little bit more weathered than normal. I would kind of like to have weathered stone pieces here or something, but we don't really have a piece for that. What I'm going to be doing too is hopefully the forest, the healthy forest, kind of stops short and then it transitions into this kind of gnarled, dead section here in the middle, which I think really sells and tries to make it fit on its own. You know, maybe it's on cursed ground, who knows? But it does look slightly haunted and just overall slightly spooky and very forbidding. Here is the front entrance. This is some front rocks and stuff. We're not going to be detailing this area just yet, as I feel like I want to figure out what we want along here. I could try and make this kind of a haunted forest section, maybe. That would be pretty cool. Here is the back side with a lot of those vertical walls with some of the, looks like the main living areas back here. The main cliffside supporting a lot of the weight of the structure as we go back down. And it looks really impressive. I was a little worried that the vertical section would turn out a little plain, but in my opinion, I think this is actually one of my favorite exterior wall areas, just because of how dominating of the landscape it is. Here is the courtyard in the interior with all the wooden trim placed. There's the main keep and plenty of little chimneys going along here. People can get in here and walk around, which is great. I do like to see people next to the buildings themselves, so we have some guest interaction with the environment. This is the upper courtyard area with the well. It has some vines, ivy, some greenery space. We have a drink stall back there. We also have a hat stall over here and a restroom right there. So the guests do come out of this door, and then they go through that door over here and come out here for the upper section. So the clipping isn't too bad. It could be better, but I think until we have something to really help regulate the pathing, it's just something we're going to have to live with a little bit longer. Here is the view from the other side of the cliff yard. You know, I really like just the bunch of little layers and details on this castle. It looks really nice. The view from even the balcony areas look really cool. And all this wooden trim going around. We have, let's see, let's go over here. This is the last kind of wooden trim section that wasn't on camera. And I think that's going to do us for Brand Castle. I hope you guys enjoyed the two-part episode. I don't really like to split builds into two parts, but when they take so long, there's just no way for me to get an episode out in time. And plus, I can get feedback as we go, and you guys can get involved with the build process. And I do enjoy involving the community, and you know, I'm really thankful that for you guys' comments and things like that as we go through the Renaissance Fair. And over time, it'll definitely fit the landscape more. It's still a little rough, but just the overall size of it, I think, fits the park. Anyways, that's going to do us for this episode of Planet Coaster. Go ahead and leave a like, so I know you guys enjoy this series. Go ahead and leave a comment on what you think, what you would like changed, worked on, added, etc. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I think I might leave you guys with a few cinematic little pans to end the episode.